Securing the crime scene should always be the first step in any criminal investigation, as it ensures that the evidence is preserved and that the investigation can proceed without contamination or interference. Here we are putting on gloves, shoe covers, as well as goggles in order to prevent us from contaminating the scene. And as you saw in the picture at the start, we're going to be using tape to further secure the scene and make sure no one interferes. Alright, so here we are taking photographs of the crime scene from both multiple angles as well as close-ups, making sure not to touch or move anything that may or may not disturb the scene in its investigation. Okay, so now we're placing down evidence markers at various points, which would be able to help us document and organize physical evidence to make sure that nothing is overlooked during the investigation process. Now we are doing a rough sketch of the crime scene, which would include where some of the evidence is and other important information. This is me putting the evidence to scale as well as sketching the evidence and having scale measurements for it as well.
So for fingerprinting, it's simple but very technical. We put the dark powder on a brush provided in the fingerprinting kit. Then we put that over the fingerprint on the surface where it was located. After we did that, we carefully put clear tape on the fingerprint, making sure there was no air bubbles. Then we cut the tape. Then we carefully took the tape off of the calculator. Then we put it on the paper. Then we wrote out the information on the paper, such as the date, the crime, and who the fingerprint belonged to. Then we drew where the fingerprint was found. In this case, it was a calculator.
So here we are collecting an apparent blood by using a sterile cotton swab while wearing disposable gloves, gently dabbing it to make sure that it doesn't smear, while also making sure not to directly touch the blood with our gloves to prevent any cross-contamination. We then put it in an evidence bag. Now we are putting the rest of the physical evidence away, and to make sure that the evidence is preserved and protected for future analysis, we are putting them in evidence bags, or in other words like packaging, to minimize the risk of both damage and contamination. In our case, we are putting away the textbook, the calculator, and the shoe, as they are all pieces of evidence which may be important later on. Packaging and labeling evidence in general at a crime scene is crucial for maintaining the integrity of the evidence as well as the chain of custody, which is essential for the investigation and future legal proceedings. Here we are putting away a knife, which is considered a weapon, and weapons should usually be contained in a rigid container. But for our situation, we may do and secure the knife by wrapping something around both the blade and the point and then putting it into an evidence bag, safely making it a piece of evidence for future use. And finally, here we are labeling the evidence for accurate identification.